All right, it's time for another Fibble. This is the game that's just like Wordle, but on every row, one of the clues is a lie. They're starting us with sharp. Interesting, because I'd like to have the yellow and green be true, but the H is going to be tricky to do with another letter because it can't be second. You could do something SH maybe, something like that, but it's not great. So let's try to put the H at the beginning maybe. We could do HA something with a P, or maybe something with an RP. I can't think of anything, actually, with an H at the beginning and a P at the end. That's crazy. So, all right, well, we might not be able to do the yellow and green as true this time. So, I think I'd rather do the yellow and green still in there, but the H would be the lie. We could do cheap. And that's good because the double letter gives us a good chance for contradictions as well. Okay, well, one of the P's is a lie, so the H is definitely true. Okay, so, I mean, if the P at the end is true, then it would be, you'd have this, and it would have to be an anagram. I mean, you're not going to do ECP or EHP, so that doesn't work. So the P can't be the lie. This has to be true. That's a lie, and these are all true. Now, the E's are interesting. It's most likely that one of the E's is a lie. We could do something ECH potentially. And just have the one lie. Interestingly, there is a word that would work if there were no lies in cheap, but that's not gonna be any good. Okay, so what about something like bench? Does that work? No, because both of the right. Okay, yeah. Both of the E's would be lies because so if you have an E somewhere that's not third, right? And there's only the one E, this is clearly a lie. But it should be yellow and this one should be gray, so they would both be lies. So if we have an E not third, we have to have two E's. Because for this to be a lie, this has to be true. So, but if we have no E, these would both be lies. So we have to have either an E third or two E's. And if we do the E third, now we're back to H at the beginning again, but there's no P. So maybe that's okay. Or the ECH, but I don't know how that's gonna work. So H something E is what I'm thinking. We could have a second E, we either have to have a second E or a C. Well, what if we did teeth? That would work. Okay, so one of these E's is a lie. Wow. So, interesting that we got the double E again. So if there's just one E, so we already said that if there's just one E, it had to be third. But if there's just one E, then it has to be third, and this is a lie, and this is true, and then there's two E's. So there's definitely two E's in the word. Could it be T-E-E? Something else with an H. Is that a thing? I don't think so. We know there's an H. Pretty sure there's two E's. So we have the same problem with teeth here. Let's say there's just one E and it's at the end, right? This one should be yellow, and this one should be gray, so they're both lies. That's not possible. So, could we have two E's and these are both lies? Is that possible? It is possible if they were like at the beginning and the end or something. That's the only way it would be possible. But then you'd have to have a T at the beginning. So these can't both be lies. The greens can't both be lies. One of them has to be true. They could both be true. In which case, this would be the lie and this would be the lie. And we'd have to have the T, and you'd have to have the H, and I don't think that's gonna work. So I don't think this one can be true, is what I'm saying. I think I'm saying that one has to be the lie. which means we have, oh, but then that means the other one has to be a lie too. If this one's a lie, that makes this one true, and that's a lie. And then there's nowhere to put the e's. So, actually, that doesn't work. This can't be a lie. If this is a lie, this is true, this is a lie. Both the yellow e's are true. The t is at the beginning, and there's not enough spaces to put, so this has to be true. Okay. Can this be the lie? And that can these both be true? They could both be true. We'd have T-E-E. But again, we need to have an H. That doesn't work. So maybe it's the T that's the problem. Could it be the T that's the problem? And I need H-E something? We could do this. We could do this. H-E and then new letters. No, but we need a second E. Something like heave would work, except we can't do the A. No, because we need a C. What? If we do a second E and it's not third, if these are true, that's a lie, but then you need the T. But if the other E is not third, then this is the lie and we need to have a C. And it has to be an E at the end. Hence. Oh, man. Okay. There's a little bit of an obscure word. Not super obscure, but not a word that gets used very often. Hence. Wow, well, the double E's were really messing with my brain, but it got us all the information we needed once we actually worked it out and figured out the right word. All right, well, took a lot of thinking, but I got it in 3, so let me know how your solve went today, and be sure to subscribe for more.